She mocked me in front of everyone, laughed at my dreams, called me a failure, and made sure the whole room joined in. I stayed quiet, but that day changed everything. What she didn't know was that I wasn't going to just walk away. I was going to make her regret it. My name's Brian, and for 6 years I thought I was living the dream, married to the woman I loved, working hard to build a life with her, always telling myself the sacrifices I made would be worth it in the end. Her name was Vanessa, and she had this charisma that pulled people in like a magnet, confident, stylish, a little sharp, but always the center of attention. When we met, I was a junior architect working crazy hours at a mid-tier firm, and she was this vibrant freelance interior designer who seemed to float through life. At first, I thought we were the perfect match, her creativity and my structure, her fire and my calm. But over the years, the fire turned into something else. It started subtly, little digs about my clothes, sarcastic comments when I talked about my career goals, backhanded compliments in front of friends. "Brian has such big dreams," she'd say with a smirk. Bless him. I'd laugh it off, not realizing the weight of it then. But everything came crashing down at an anniversary dinner she arranged for us at this fancy rooftop restaurant downtown. It wasn't just us. She'd invited a dozen of her friends, people I barely knew, all flashy types from the design world. I thought maybe she wanted to surprise me, to celebrate something. Instead, she stood up mid-dinner, holding a glass of wine, and launched into a speech that felt like a dagger wrapped in silk. "To my wonderful husband," she began, "who's still chasing the same promotion after 4 years, but hey, at least he's consistent." Laughter. Real, loud, uncomfortable laughter. I smiled weakly, thinking she'd stop. She didn't. And who knew starting a side business making wooden coasters would be so unprofitable? "But don't worry, babe. I'm sure Etsy success is just around the corner." More laughter. People covering their mouths, trying not to make eye contact with me. I sat there, burning inside, unable to process what was happening. I looked at her, hoping she'd see the pain in my eyes and stop. She didn't. She just raised her glass again and finished with, "To Brian, the dreamer. May you always keep dreaming." I didn't say a word. Not that night. Not the next morning. I just left, packed a small bag, went to stay with my cousin Danny for a few days, and did a lot of thinking. Vanessa never called, never checked in, not once. And that told me everything I needed to know. That dinner wasn't just a joke, it was who she really was now. And I decided right then I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain. I was going to make her eat every word. The truth was, I'd already been working on something, my own business, small, under the radar, nothing glamorous yet. I kept it quiet because I didn't want to deal with her sarcasm. It was a custom renovation and design company focused on converting abandoned industrial spaces into luxury lofts. Niche, risky, but I believed in it. With the little savings I had and the help of my cousin's construction crew, I took on my first solo project, an old bakery in the arts district. I poured every hour into it, every ounce of energy, while keeping a low profile. Meanwhile, Vanessa thought I was sulking. She probably assumed I'd come crawling back once I got over my bruised ego. She underestimated me. Over the next year, things started to shift. My first project sold out within weeks of completion. Word spread. I reinvested, expanded, hired a small team, started getting attention from real estate developers and magazines. People loved the aesthetic, industrial grit with minimalist elegance. I branded it Revive Studios. Within 18 months, Revive was featured in an online architecture journal, and our second building landed a feature in a national home design magazine. That's when Vanessa started sniffing around. She sent me a text, just one. "Heard about your project. Impressive stuff. Want to catch up?" I ignored it. Then came the Instagram likes. Then a DM, "Proud of you. Always knew you had it in you." Now, here's where it gets interesting. Around this time, I got wind that she was trying to land a big client, some real estate firm looking to revamp a luxury apartment line. It was her shot at finally stepping into the high-end world she always wanted to be in. And guess who that firm came to for structural consultation? That's right, me. I didn't reveal anything at first. I met the developers, talked through the design goals, pitched my firm's ideas. And when I saw her name on the list of shortlisted interior designers, I stayed completely silent. I let it play out. I even recommended her portfolio anonymously. After that message from Vanessa, the one where she finally admitted she was wrong, I expected to feel something. Closure. Triumph. Maybe even a flicker of the love we once had. But instead, all I felt was peace. A quiet confirmation that I'd outgrown her, her world, and the twisted version of myself I had to shrink into just to survive that marriage. And yet, the story wasn't quite over. Because as Revive Studios continued to rise, my name began circulating in the luxury renovation and design circuit like wildfire. Developers wanted me, publications wanted interviews, real estate moguls wanted collaborations. With that kind of attention came another unexpected consequence. Vanessa's friends started noticing. Not the ones who were decent to me during the marriage, the ones who laughed the loudest at that anniversary dinner. The ones who sipped cocktails while Vanessa roasted me for sport. Suddenly, I was getting messages from them too. "Hey Brian, we should totally catch up sometime. Loved your latest project." Or, "Wow, I always said you were going places." I saw right through it. They weren't reconnecting. They were scrambling. Vanessa, meanwhile, was quietly trying to rebuild her reputation. I heard through mutual contacts that she started offering free consultations just to stay relevant, posting filtered renders on Instagram like she was booked solid, when in reality, she hadn't landed a serious client in over 6 months. It would have been enough to just move on. But something inside me wasn't ready to let it go, not because I wanted to hurt her more, but because I needed her to see the full scope of what she threw away. That meant one final move. A public one. My next project was a bold one. An abandoned hotel turned luxury co-working space, lounge, and art gallery. It was ambitious, expensive, and risky, but I knew if we pulled it off, it would cement Revive Studios as a visionary brand. And this time, I wanted the launch to be big: press, influencers, developers, designers, all of them under one roof. My team secured the guest list, and I made sure Vanessa got an invite, not through me, but through the PR agency. To her, it would seem like a coincidence. But I was setting the stage. The night of the event was electric. String lights, jazz trio, artisanal catering, and a guest list filled with exactly the kind of people she'd spent years trying to impress. She showed up in a glittering gown, all smiles, trying to play the part. But she wasn't the star anymore. People barely recognized her. They didn't ask her about her work. They asked her how she knew me. And as I took the mic to give the welcome speech, I watched her from across the room, her smile tightening as the spotlight moved further and further away. 2 years ago, I said into the mic, someone told me my dreams were unrealistic, that I should give up, that I'd never be taken seriously. And to that person, wherever they are tonight, I just want to say thank you. Because it was their doubt that made me build this. The room erupted in applause. She froze. She knew, but I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. She was already shrinking. After the event, she lingered by the bar, waiting. Maybe for closure. Maybe for redemption. I walked over, calm, confident, fully in control. "Beautiful venue," she said. "You did amazing." "Thanks," I replied. Silence stretched between us. She finally asked, "Do you hate me?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her clearly, not the cruel wife, not the venomous voice from that dinner, but a woman who was deeply insecure, terrified of irrelevance, and unable to handle someone else's success when it outpaced her own. "No," I said honestly. "I don't hate you. I just outgrew the version of myself that tolerated how you treated me." She looked like she wanted to cry, but I didn't wait for her tears. I turned and walked away, and that was the real victory, not humiliating her, not making her beg, but showing her that the man she mocked had become something so far beyond her reach that even her apology couldn't bring him back. After that night, Vanessa faded. She left the city a few months later, moved to a smaller town, started offering online design classes. Meanwhile, Revive Studios exploded. We expanded to 3 cities. I was invited to speak at design expos, and I started mentoring young creatives who'd been told their dreams were too small. I made it my mission to lift others where I'd once been torn down. And with every win, every new contract, every standing ovation, I remembered that night, sitting in that restaurant, humiliated by the woman I loved, and I smiled. Because that moment, painful as it was, gave me the fire to rise. And I didn't just rise. I soared. And the woman who once laughed at me? She became a whisper in the background of my legacy. 2 years after that unforgettable launch event, life had completely transformed for me. Revive Studios was now a recognized name across the country, and we were expanding into international markets with design inquiries coming in from Dubai, Singapore, and London. I had a full executive team, a loyal creative crew, and a brand that had gone from a quiet side hustle mocked over dinner to a global architectural movement. But even as my company grew, I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot what it felt like to sit silently at that table while strangers laughed at my dreams. That night had rewired something in me, not into someone bitter or vengeful, but into someone so focused on building value that it would speak louder than any insult ever could. I started a mentorship program called From the Ground Up, specifically aimed at men and women who had been dismissed, laughed at, or told they were reaching too far. It gave me a different kind of joy, helping others step into their worth the way I had to fight to find mine. I also began writing a book about architecture and resilience, called The Blueprint of Comebacks. My publisher loved it. But as fate would have it, life had one final twist for me, and it came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was walking out of a business lunch with a prominent investor when I saw her again, Vanessa. She was sitting under a small cafe awning, drenched halfway through, holding a clipboard and explaining design options to a visibly unimpressed couple. She didn't see me. She was too focused, her tone tight, her smile forced. She looked older, not just physically, but spiritually. Like life had stopped going her way and she never figured out how to adapt. I didn't approach her. I just watched from across the street, not with glee, but with reflection. That moment solidified it for me. True revenge isn't about watching someone fall. It's about rising so far above them that their existence no longer affects your altitude. I walked away, unnoticed, and for the first time ever, felt nothing. No heat in my chest. No revenge-fueled adrenaline. Just calm. Fast forward 6 months later, and the unexpected happened. Vanessa signed up for my online mentorship webinar, not knowing it was mine. Her name popped up in the attendee list, and for a split second, I considered removing her. But then I thought, no, let her hear it. The topic of that session? Rebuilding after humiliation. How to own the narrative. I went live, and as the screen filled with faces, I saw hers, the slightest widening of her eyes when she realized who I was. I didn't flinch. I spoke like I always do, direct, sincere, and deeply honest. I told my story without naming her, describing the feeling of being mocked publicly by someone you trusted, and how that pain could be your ignition if you let it. She didn't ask any questions. She didn't stay until the end. She quietly logged off midway through. And that was fine, because the point of that talk and the whole revenge arc was never about punishing her. It was about reclaiming myself. Years later, when I was awarded Innovator of the Year at an international design summit, I stood on stage in front of thousands, holding a glass trophy, and I said something that made the entire room go still. There was a time when the person I loved most in this world told me I was a joke, that my ideas were small, that my future was a fantasy. If you're watching this, I want to say thank you, not because you supported me, but because your laughter gave me something I didn't even know I had, a reason to fight harder. The audience erupted. The cameras flashed. And in that moment, I knew the journey had come full circle. Vanessa faded into the background of my past, now just a chapter in a story that was never really about her. It was about a man who got knocked down in front of a crowd and chose to rise in front of the world. A man who turned pain into power. And that's how I turned the tables and made my wife, the one who humiliated me, the ultimate laughingstock. Not through cruelty, not through public takedowns, but by becoming everything she said I never would. And then, walking away like she never mattered at all.